on here from Voidzilla before, but like this I would have never found this if it didn't just pop up on my feed. So it's like you can't go searching for it, like just like freaking bugs, dude. It's just gonna be littered with news outlets. Like I don't give like I feel like our new generation is low key like just over the shit, bro. News is for the old people. You know what I'm saying? Like news is for, and I mean news is in like, you know, NBC, ABC, Fox, all of them. I feel like they're just, I mean, at this point, most of the youth knows that they're just tailored towards a certain demographic and they use a ridiculous amount of, I just want to say like brainwashing, bro. Like I saw this clip of it the other day that perfectly explains it. It's like, they'll tell you what to think in the news before you even have a chance to even articulate or think for yourself of what you're supposed to feel about it. They'll tell you for you that it's important or it's drastic or it's extreme or this and that. It's like, and I used to think it was just places like CNN and MSNBC, but no, like even the Republican channels do it too. Like they, like all of them do it. It's so, it's so draining, you know? And it's like, I always wondered as a kid, like, why would you even watch the news? Because literally there's nothing, and I don't know if it was always this way, but there's literally nothing good on the news. Nothing. There's nothing ever good. It's just weather, which is maybe the good thing if you want forecasts. But nowadays you can get that on like your phone and stuff. But anyway, or debates, arguments, and horrible stuff. And a lot of people used to start their day with the news. So it's like you're starting your day with fear and bad news. No pun intended. Like it's just kind of, I would hate to start my day like that, you know? And that's been like a main source. I think my point is I feel like most of the younger generation is just over the news. We'd rather watch videos from people like him who aren't swayed by any sort of money or media outlet or foreign entities, or whether they're Republican or Democrat. Like he's just a independent source, you know? Now, I'll say I don't know how he gets his information without being cluttered by news gnats. That's what I call them, news gnats, because it's just like you wish they could just get the hell out of the way. But I don't know how he gets his information without I really don't know how most journalists get their information without being swarmed by news gnats. But anyway, new Epstein files just dropped, so we're gonna tap in and we're gonna watch this video. Where'd it go? I think this one's reputable. Where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? This one. I think this one's reputable, but if it's not, we'll find out. Stop it.
All right. Today I want to...
Hey, my brother, pause. Okay, but this guy's cool. So lock in, YouTube. What up, though? New Epstein files just dropped. Let's get it. Let's find out what's really going on up in the J-Lo-teen, whatever that means.
20,000 Epstein files that got released. It's a complicated picture involving a lot of powerful people, but let me just say right up front, this is an ongoing story. There's a lot that's going to be released in the coming days, so just understand we're going to do our best to explain what has been happening, because this story has been full of twists and turns. It starts with the Democrats releasing 3 emails from the Jeffrey Epstein estate. One says that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. A victim spent hours at my house with him. Another says the victim, Mar-a-Lago, Trump says he asked me to resign. Never a member ever, Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine Maxwell to stop. And then the third email is from Michael Wolff talking about Jeffrey Epstein's association with Trump, saying you can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, or if it looks like he really could win, you could save him generating a debt. Basically implying the idea that Epstein would have some kind of compromising information on Trump. But that was just the start of it, because then
I'm gonna say something controversial here, and you know, depending, you know, the however many people watch this, it might be controversial. I don't really care. The only thing that I don't like about this situation is that they're only weaponizing it for him. And it's a great start. Don't get me wrong. Like if he's somewhere littered in these files, that's a great start. But you can clearly see that they're doing it for a political gain to make sure he gets out of office. And there's so much more. Everybody knows I don't even want to put names in here, but I'll just say Trump because he's, the one implicated here. But there's so many more people in these files, and they're clearly just tipping Pandora's box open just a little bit, just so they can get him out of here. But how much you want to bet they're not going to release all the other names that are on there, because it'd be too much of a political downfall. Like, so many people would either get fired or arrested or whatever. And I hate how they're just doing it for him. Like, if you're going to fight for justice, fight for full justice. Let's get everybody, Republican and Democrat, whoever's on this list, out of here. You know what I'm saying? But they're not going to do that, are they? So that's the only thing that bothers me, really. I can't stand it, but it is, I don't know. I don't even like to say it is what it is for this situation, because it shouldn't be what it is. It should be the whole thing released. But anyway, let's go.
After that, the GOP came out swinging, and they said Democrats whine about releasing the files, but they only cherry pick when they have them to generate clickbait. You deserve the full truth. And then they released over 20,000 files. Some of it had to do with Trump. Some of it didn't. Importantly, 2 of the emails that were in there were some of the ones that the Democrats released, except they were unredacted in the GOP copy. And these lack of redactions are obviously very intentional. So we see first, I want you to realize the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. And then it says, Virginia spent hours at my house with him. Now that name is really important because it's Virginia Giuffre. She was the Prince Andrew accuser, but importantly, she did not accuse Trump, rather saying that he couldn't have been friendlier. This obviously is one of the main reasons the GOP appears to have released this, because in part, they're implying that, hey, if you release this redacted, people are going to speculate who this victim was, thinking that there was something that happened, but actually the person that's in there didn't accuse Trump of something illegal. And so this is sort of the implication.
So it's like a loophole. It's like one side said, yeah, we did release the files, and then the other side's like, yeah, we released them, guys. See, like, he's not a bad guy, which is ridiculous, bro.
Here with the Democrats saying, well, you're unredacting a victim.
Like, we clearly don't need to see we don't need to see the file. Like, I hate politics so much, bro. We clearly don't need to see the ones where he looks like a good guy. If he's the bad guy in this situation, we need to see that. That's the importance. We don't care about anything else. We just need to prove if he's the bad guy or if he's not the bad guy. That's it. We don't need, like, well, I guess that's what they're trying to say, isn't it? I just realized that. They're probably trying to say, like, look, he's in the files, but he's not the bad guy, which I don't know. I don't know, and I'm not saying he is or is not, but apparently his name was littered all throughout these emails. So, I mean, I don't know.
Name. So that's been the battle there. Specifically, the second email, by the way, just further confirms it. It says blank worked at Mar-a-Lago. She was one of the ones that accused Prince Andrew. In the Democrat copy, all of that was redacted because, of course, it gives away the fact that we are talking about, once again, Virginia Giuffre. Also, in these emails released by the Republicans, it says blank worked at Mar-a-Lago. Trump knew of it, came to my house many times. He never got a massage. That's straight from Jeffrey Epstein clearing him of a massage, which obviously is the one person you most don't want to get a massage from. So honestly, that is good for him, which is obviously why they released it. Begging the question why they didn't release it sooner. Maybe it's because they didn't want people to know that Trump knew about the girls. Now, one thing I want to talk about is the fact that Epstein is saying, hey, look, Trump publicly said that it was me that he asked to stop, but actually it was Ghislaine that he asked to stop. And my question here is, if it is Maxwell that was the one who poached Virginia Giuffre from Mar-a-Lago and then trafficked her, then why is she getting so much special treatment? I mean, that is the part where the Republicans don't look good at all. I mean, what is going on with Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted sex offender, trying to get a pardon, getting Todd Blanche to give her a softball interview, and then she immediately gets preferential treatment. Look, we've been over the fact that she's at basically a special prison in Bryan, Texas, where normally someone of her status wouldn't be allowed to go to because it's too nice, it's too low security. But in addition to that, new reports are saying that top officials at Camp Bryan are sick of being Maxwell's bitch. Federal law enforcement staff working at the camp have been waiting on Maxwell hand and foot, including, by the way, reportedly she's been given a puppy. as part of the preferential treatment she's been receiving. Overwhelmingly, Maxwell has been getting a super nice ride in all of this. This, of course, makes us all wonder, once again, what do they have on Trump? I mean, why treat her like this if she doesn't have something compromising in all of that? It just kind of begs some.
That is true, but also that's like the CEO and the CFO. You know what I'm saying? It's like Batman and Robin. It's just like Spider-Man and Miles, bro. Like Ghislaine or whatever her name is, she was literally his wife. You know what I'm saying? So it's like by association, she's like the step down from him. You know what I mean? Like there's him and then there's her, or it could be him and her side by side. But of course she's going to be implicated immediately because she probably knows half of what Epstein knows, which is probably why she got the pardon, which still doesn't look good on any side at all. It doesn't look good for her even, you know? I don't know if that was a package delivered or what, but yeah, I mean, that doesn't look good for her at all to be implicated like this. But then again, you know, she is Bonnie and Clyde with Epstein. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like by nature, she would have to have a lot of implication to where she would have to have some sort of, you know, special needs jail or something like that.
Questions you probably don't want to ask. Also very suspicious is the fact that immediately after this report came out, Trump personally called Rep. Lauren Boebert, urging her to withdraw support for releasing the Epstein files. Bondi, Blanche, and Patel, we're going to meet today about the Epstein files. This, of course, is furthering the idea the White House has no interest in this story. I think Trump tweeted multiple times today about the Epstein hoax.
The Democrats are using the Jeffrey Epstein hoax to try and deflect from their massive failures, in particular, most recent one, the shutdown. I don't know. I feel like I saw this video from a certain figure that I won't say out loud, but he suggested that the shutdown was actually in relation to the Epstein files and who and what was in them. And if you look at the timeline since June or July and our involvement with foreign people, and then the government recess and then the government shutdown, and of course it being the longest one in history, I heard it was actually all that is related to the Epstein files. So for him to say stuff like they're deflecting their failures because of, and you know, for example, the government shutdown, I don't know, Mr. Chumpy boy. I don't know.
Again, we've heard that a million times. And the question is, why are you acting so suspicious if you have nothing to hide, right? If you didn't get the massage,
true,
which Epstein says, what are you hiding? Why are you so worried about all this stuff coming out? By the way, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was actually asked about the White House pressuring people to get them not to sign for the release of the Epstein files, and her response was pretty insane.
An ad for sleep. I kind of need sleep, bro.
Hi, this is Sona with
it's just an AI.
Air.
Okay.
Why are White House officials then meeting with Representative Boebert in an effort to try and get her to not sign this petition calling for the release of the files?
Doesn't it show transparency that members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please? Doesn't that show our level of transparency? Doesn't that show the level of transparency when we are willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns?
It shows transparency to try to go and block files being released on the world's most prolific. But the fact we know about it, that's the transparent part. It's just insane. I mean, that's the kind of spin we've expected with this story all along. That's been part of what's been so frustrating about all of this. So look, I want to get back to this story because there's so many people involved here. We're just going to go through one by one. I mean, look, it's a lot more than just Trump. Like, one person that got kind of a weird stray in all of this was the fact that Epstein talked about Hillary doing naughties with Vince. Vince being Vince Foster, a White House counsel. There was a rumor about Clinton and Vince having some kind of affair, and then later Vince was found dead of suicide. And this is where we see Jeffrey Epstein and Michael Wolff's kind of symbiotic relationship. Michael Wolff is a journalist who has been prolific in all of this. Well,
So she got that dude on a live for surety. I feel like that should be bigger than what it is. I mean, we this isn't the first story we've heard about the government, ultimately unaliving somebody, but that's kind of huge. To me, that's huge. Anyway,
I struggle to call him a journalist, actually, because as what we'll find, he was more like a PR guy for Epstein. But he was actually asking Epstein and using Epstein for a lot of access to information, because Michael Wolff actually told Jeffrey Epstein, hey, basically, I'm interviewing him this afternoon. Anything you think I should ask? And he's talking about Trump. Epstein replies, do you want to be provocative? Michael Wolff says, job is to get the hard ones in without being ejected from the room. What's the one that pierces through?
job is to get the hard ones in without being ejected from the room. What's one question that pierces?
Jeffrey Epstein basically says, hey, you can do this softball. That's a Hillary problem. He would smile, and then you can ask about his relationship with the Electricians Union and Mar-a-Lago, and out you go. Obviously hinting to the idea that he's going to get kicked out if he asks about more sensitive subjects. Michael Wolff asks about, hey, what's up with Foster? And then he describes what that's all about. And this brings us to Michael Wolff, who I want to spend a little bit of time here on. Although some of you may not know as much about him, you may be less interested in him. I think he's one of sort of the worst looking people in all of this. Actually, after reading these emails, he may be the most disgusting person that comes out of that. And that's saying a lot given what's in here. But I want to just show you this because actually the Democrats initially released was this idea was that Michael Wolff and Epstein were basically planning how to respond to Epstein being brought up in the context of Trump. Michael Wolff says, I hear CNN is planning to ask Trump about his relationship with you, either on air or in Scrum afterwards. Epstein says, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? That being interesting because it's like, wait, were they in touch with Trump at this time? Because Trump denied being in contact with Epstein basically since early 2000s. But anyway, if he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you valuable PR or political currency. You can hang him in a way that generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey's a good guy that's gotten a raw deal and is victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in the Trump regime.
Hold
now,
on,
if
what?
it doesn't sound like PR, it might be sounding like blackmail to you. It's like kind of a little bit of both.
No,
Michael Wolff,
that's definitely blackmail. I mean, this is like the same blackmail that I'm sure he has on so many people. I think you should let him. Okay, so basically, the key word here, where was it? If it really looks like he could win. So this keyword here, if I'm not mistaken, let's see. Yeah, 16, 15. Okay, so he was elected in 16 through 20. But that's 12, 16, 15. That's like on the cusp of... Oh, yeah, so that's like around election time. Okay, of... Huh. It looks like he can win. You could save him generating a debt. This is totally blackmail. This is totally blackmail.
A good guy that's gotten a raw deal and is victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in the Trump regime. Now, if it doesn't sound like PR, it might be sounding like blackmail to you. It's like kind of a little bit of both. Michael Wolff is basically conspiring to generate a debt for Jeffrey Epstein from Trump, who is about to become the most powerful person on the planet. So that's really bizarre because Michael Wolff has positioned himself as sort of this truth teller about Jeffrey Epstein and he's got...
And the crazy stuff is this is the type of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, bro. While this you and I are out here voting or like just seeing the stage of them on TV and I don't know, their tweets and their interviews and stuff, like it's all just a screen. It's all just a stage. And we're just watching the play. But right behind the curtain, right behind the stage, there is all so much stuff, all sorts of stuff being manufactured behind the stage. There's a whole machine behind the stage of people, of operations, of emails, of transference, of power shifting. Like, holy cow. And this is just a little taste of it. Like, this is just a little taste of it. Just a little itty bitty taste of it. Wow.
All these tapes that he's going to release showing how close Trump and Epstein were. But it's like behind the scenes, he was actually kind of running PR for Epstein, which is sort of the worst thing you could have ever done. This is in 2016. Michael Wolff is talking to Epstein about a Patterson book, which later becomes the James Patterson Filthy Rich book. He says basically that would present some time issues if it was released too early. You would not be able to do a competing book or documentary before then. That's not to say it shouldn't be pursued. In a sense, better to know what Patterson's position is and a year from now be able to counter it. In 2016, he's playing like PR, I'm going to fix your reputation, Jeffrey Epstein. He then says, that being said, if you need an immediate counter to the book, I believe Trump offers an ideal opportunity. It's a chance to make the story about something other than you while at the same time letting you frame your own story. Also, becoming an anti-Trump voice gives you a certain political cover, which you decidedly don't have now. And so again, we get the idea of him kind of scheming to get Epstein cover, which is so bad because now Michael Wolff is like, oh, we're the guy exposing Trump's connections to Epstein. It's like, buddy, what are your connections to Epstein? Then we have later them discussing a lawsuit against Epstein and Donald Trump with a woman claiming that she was raped. Michael Wolff responds, well, I guess if there's anyone who can wave this away, it's Donald. Let me know if there's anything I can do. Again, why are you trying to do something for a man accused of these things? It really seems like Michael Wolff was kind of running cover here. Now, I also want to talk about the Prince Andrew Trump scandal that appears to have been brewing here, or at least is implied in the emails. You may see some people say that Epstein met Trump and Prince Andrew back in 2019, which of course would be well after Trump said they had no contact, which would be bad news for Trump. In fact, there's a few things in here which suggest that Epstein had contact with Trump. Of course, we don't know for sure. I'll just present you the evidence we do have. So this is back in 2019, June 3rd. They're talking about London real estate, about how financials are going to leave. Then Epstein says, once they are gone, the monarchy is dependable. Saying Prince Andrew and Trump today, too funny. And this is actually the same day that Trump and Andrew are spotted in London, of course, meeting together. Jeffrey Epstein says, recall Prince Andrew's accuser came out of Mar-a-Lago, Virginia Giuffre. Then we have a sender that's blacked out, but I think there's strong evidence that it's Steve Bannon, by the way, just to give you some context. They say, can't believe nobody is making you the connective tissue. So the connective tissue between these two being Epstein. And then Epstein replies, F&B only. Now later, Jeffrey Epstein says, report from London. Donald now thinks he's king. Ivanka a princess. He doesn't need advisors. Bannon says, yep, London trip not good. He had a gleam in his eye. Of course, this hinting at the idea that Epstein was there. If he got a report from London, if he's talking about Prince Andrew and Trump, or that's how people are coming to that conclusion at least. And then we have the thread that makes us know this is Steve Bannon, which is he gives a link where it says Steve Bannon believes Trump obstructed justice. Michael Wolff says, he says BBC crushed him. He should give it up. The book is going to be a stiff. I don't know if he senses that. Epstein replies, unfortunately, I do know his comments have encouraged some to look to you for answers. This all being about an article about Steve Bannon, obviously. And then Steve Bannon says, Burke says, I have zero to worry about. Now, if you don't know who Burke is, he's a lawyer who previously defended Steve Bannon. Epstein then replies, good but unnecessary. Should I call Michael Wolff? Bannon says, what are you going to say to him? He's a wild animal caught in a trap. Epstein says, catch his breath. Bannon says, tell him to lay off me. It's both not working and not helping. Okay, done. Again, this is all in the context of Michael Wolff talking about Steve Bannon, and then he says, hey, tell him to back off. This is furthering the idea that Epstein, Bannon, Michael Wolff, they all had a close relationship, which is mostly public knowledge, but we see exactly how close. Now, in addition to this, I also wanted to note this very strange interaction between these two, where Epstein sends a news article about George Nader being basically caught up in some child pornography charges. And then Bannon says, not cool. Epstein, mandatory minimum 15. Bannon says, MBZ must have coughed him up. How did he get extradited? Could have stayed in UAE forever. Epstein says he was not extradited. He was duped. Bannon, WTF. Epstein, there is his bail hearing today, currently in Brooklyn. Doesn't look good, pre-trial detention. Now, I personally found it strange that they were so concerned about the fate of someone caught up in such horrible charges.
Yeah, what the?
We'll also talk about the Thanksgiving message. This one got a lot of attention, which is that Epstein...
I think he's about to explain it, but I think this is what I heard. I heard two things. One, that somebody had favorable acts done by the president himself, which I don't know if that's true. I don't know the validity of that. This is why I'm watching this in the first place. But this was the second one, that he spent like Thanksgiving with Epstein. So I'm sure he's about to explain that, but that was really interesting what we just read, which I think that's going on all the time, by the way. This, like I said, about the stage and the machine behind the stage, like stuff like this is going on all the time. It's just a team, a like collective, how do I explain this? Multiple set of parties that protect each other in doing whatever they want to do because they're above the law, right? Like they're rich and they can, if you know, like for us, if we get, let's just say a traffic ticket, for example, we blow a stoplight, you know, we get a fine. $200, $70. That's a hole in our wallet. That shit sucks, bro. You know, but for somebody who has $2 billion, they could, I'm being exaggerating. Obviously not anybody has $2 billion except for maybe a few percentage of the world. But, you know, for somebody who's amply rich, they could blow that stop sign, no problem. Because if they get a $70 charge ticket, what's that to them? That's taking a drop of water out of the ocean, you know? So in the same regard, they do, on a much exaggerated scale, they do crazy and horrendous things and they can get away with it because they're rich and they can just pay somebody to protect them, somebody who's in an industry to protect them. And there's multiple parties like this going on all the time behind the scenes. And this is just my opinion, but I mean, you see it right here. You see proof of it right here. And this is not the only instance. It's almost like when the CIA admitted to doing, what was it, MK Ultra, and they were like, oh, yeah, we did some experiments a long time ago. Yeah, we were really unhinged back then, but we're not now, guys. We're good now. We don't do that anymore. It's really, bro. Really, bro. Yeah. When it comes to power, dominance, money, there is no limit for how evil and sinister things get, bro. I'll just tell you that firsthand.
Epstein was going to Thanksgiving and he was asked, where are you having Thanksgiving? He says, Eva. This lady, Faith Cates, replies, he's such a snooze. Who else is down there? He replies, David Fizzle, Hansen, Trump. And once again, Trump claims that he was not in contact with Jeffrey Epstein after the early 2000s. He said, hey, I cut him off. I realized he was a bad guy. And if Epstein's having Thanksgiving with him, that's obviously a problem. Now, I don't have any public confirmation for that outside of these emails, which are basically talking about it, implying it. Once again, the same is true of Prince Andrew. Do you actually think these emails are about him actually seeing them, or is he just reporting on it? It's kind of hard to know, but I just want you to know what's out there. You also should know about the foreign governments that Epstein was working with. In one email, you have Jeffrey Epstein talking about advising a Russian ambassador. He says, Churkin was great. He understood Trump after our conversations. It's not complex. And Churkin was a Russian ambassador at the time until he died. And then you also have Israel. There are a bunch of public reports about Israel being implicated with Epstein, how spies stayed with him at the time, and some of them even met at Epstein's house. And then you also have some emails between Epstein and a UAE royal, a sultan. So Epstein was rubbing shoulders with the top cream of the crop of our society. I mean, I don't think that should come as a shock. We should also probably talk about Larry Summers. He was in an article, Mogul Donor Gives Harvard More Than Money. And then he is in emails with Larry Summers, where Epstein tells him, when we meet, I will endeavor to mesmerize you with stories of DC. So wild. And then Larry Summers said, I am trying to figure out why American elite think if you murder your baby by beating and abandonment, it must be irrelevant to your admission at Harvard, but hit on a few women 10 years ago and can't work at a network or think tank. Do not repeat this insight. Oops. Now everybody has it. So there you go. I mean, that's a high-level snapshot of what we saw in this release. Lots of people being implicated in one way or another. It's quite varied. I mean, you know, some people you find out they've been playing a journalist but have been secretly running PR cover for Epstein, like well after, you know, you kind of knew he was implicated in a lot of this stuff. Other people like Clinton are catching strays on, you know, affairs that they were having. Trump gets a mixed bag where initially the implication that he was kind of given was revealed to be not quite correct because they're talking about Virginia Giuffre, although it still is a mystery why he's behaving so strangely regarding Ghislaine Maxwell, why he's trying extensively to block the Epstein files. I'm not going to pretend to have all the answers. Instead, I just want to break down what we do know so far. As always, we've all been just looking to get to the end of this thing so we can all move on. It's been amazing how slow they have dripped this thing out. I mean, they have been slow rolling it this whole time, so I will update you when we have more.
Now, most people
Type shit. Yeah, W video, bro. We're gonna look at one more. Let me make sure that it's on here. Let's see how long. This is about 20 minutes. It might just regurgitate the same information. I'm really not too sure. It may just do the... Yeah, it may just regurgitate the same info, but I wanted to watch it because I think it's an independent journalist, so...
20,000 emails that were recently subpoenaed and released from the Epstein estate, because everyone is talking about this right now with good reason. And I want to pick out the 21 most interesting, damaging, and shocking revelations because the story of Jeffrey Epstein, his ties to Donald Trump, his level of global influence, and the implications it all has for the country and the world has now been blown wide open.
Really?
Let me start off a little bit differently here. Rather than simply diving in right away, I want to begin with a sort of in-depth...
I hope he gets into the people that the previous guy... I want to know his name. What's his name?
glossary.
Because I know him. I watch him. Not Shniko.
Today we're talking about the
Voidzilla. Yeah. I want to know... He was mentioning people I wasn't really too familiar with, and I was gonna... like exit and look up their names, but I just wanted to go along with the video. But hopefully he mentioned the people here and what importance they have.
Names. There's a pretty hefty number of people that we need to be familiar with before comprehending these emails. So at the very start, right now,
probably should have
I
watched
wanna
this
go
one
through
first.
one by one, and explain who these people are, so that if at any point someone doesn't remember, or I say a name that they don't recall or aren't familiar with, they can come back to the beginning and find out who that person is, why they matter, etc.
14 names.
First, obviously, is Jeffrey Epstein, financier, trafficker, well-connected socialite, and the main subject of the video. He was arrested in 2006, again in 2019, and he died under suspect circumstances in 2020. If you want to know more, there's a bunch of prior videos in a playlist down below, but yeah, I'm sure pretty much everyone is already familiar with who he is. Next is Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell was Epstein's right-hand woman, if you will. She helped facilitate all of his activities, participated directly in the trafficking and the abuse, resulting in a conviction. But after a special interview with the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, she was moved to a minimum security holding facility with special treatment as well, and is now allegedly seeking clemency from President Donald Trump. Obviously, logically, Donald Trump is next. Pretty sure everyone already knows who he is, but his wife, Melania, is also a kind of important figure because she's currently embroiled in a potential lawsuit with an author named Michael Wolff, after threatening him with a $1 billion defamation suit in an effort to force retractions on some of the claims that he made about her and Jeffrey Epstein. Michael Wolff, as we just said, an author who wrote extensively about Epstein and conducted a number of interviews with him, supposedly something like 100 hours of footage, is a journalist and author closely connected to the Epstein story, who has not only made explosive claims about things he allegedly saw, but also embedded himself in the controversy by targeting President Trump repeatedly. Moving on,
That's what we saw in the
Landon
last video.
Thomas Jr., a New York Times journalist who is also relevant to the situation, highly. But I also think it's worth mentioning that from 1994 to 1998, Landon Thomas was an asset manager at Morgan Stanley. He's not just a journalist, he's also a finance guy. Next up is Steve Bannon, former chief strategist at the White House during the first 7 months of Trump's 2016 presidency, which is very important. Then we have Catherine Rumler, former White House counsel to Barack Obama, 2011 to 2014, and Larry Summers, former Secretary of the Treasury, Director of the Economic Council, and close personal friend of Jeffrey Epstein. Still not done. There's Bill Clinton, former president, Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, and then...
That was the figure that was on screen. That's who I heard got the special favors from
Linda Stone,
The
who is a
president.
former Apple and Microsoft executive who reportedly idolized Epstein. Her name comes up in the emails as well. Almost done. Last three names. Tom Barak or Barrick, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And then Linda Stone, who is a former Apple and Microsoft executive who reportedly idolized Epstein. Her name comes up in the emails as well. Almost.
So somebody who worked for Apple and Microsoft idolized Epstein. They be everywhere, bro.
Done. Last three names. Tom Barak or Barrick, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Private equity and real estate guy who's done extensive fundraising for President Trump. Also serving as the senior advisor on the 2016 Trump presidential campaign. Chairman of his inaugural committee, and now current United States ambassador to Turkey. There's Vitaly Churkin, former Russian ambassador to the United States. And lastly, Thorbjorn Jagland, former prime minister of Norway and secretary general of the Council of Europe. There's a few more names here and there, but those are the ones that we need to fully understand, because the 21 most interesting or damaging emails specifically refer to, come from, or are exchanged with one of these people. With that fully out of the way, let's dive right in. 20,000 emails have been released by House Democrats and House Republicans, in a complete mess, by the way. The formatting is terrible. It's just, they're all over the place. But
I think they did that on purpose, by the way. I think that if they scrambled it all like this and just kind of released them as if you took a stack of papers and just threw it, you know how high schoolers do at the end of their class, where they just drop them all collectively down the staircase. Like, I think this is kind of the same kind of deal. And I think they do this on purpose as a deterrent, because if they're all over the place, then there's going to be less people trying to read them or piece them together, you know, and it's only going to come from those who really want to look into it. But there's obviously going to always be those type of people like this guy and Voidzilla. So, I mean, come on now.
Those emails are now being dissected by the internet at large. Thankfully, there is a searchable database that was put together by Courier, which I'll link down below for anyone interested. So the process of finding and sorting out relevant versus irrelevant emails becomes much easier. And after doing precisely that, these are the top 21 things that I believe are most interesting, damaging, and shocking from all of them. Here we go. Number 21. This is an email from Jeffrey Epstein to Landon Thomas Jr., New York Times journalist, in 2015, after Landon Thomas said that everyone was coming to him thinking that he had juicy info on Epstein and Trump. Quote, "Read the BuzzFeed Read My Airplane Logs and Hawaiian Tropic contest / have them ask my houseman about Donald almost walking through the door, leaving his nose print on the glass as young women were swimming in the pool, and he was so focused he walked straight into the door." End quote. Not the most salacious thing in the world, to be honest.
Right.
Distracted by young women in a pool. But I figure we
How
might as well
young,
start
though?
slow at the beginning.
Because that's
Number
important.
20. Contained in the very same email thread about how people assumed there was juicy info, Epstein also says, quote, "Would you like photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen?" End quote. Still nothing explicitly wrong with that per se, but certainly a step up in severity. That is, Epstein offering ambiguous or potentially compromising photos of Trump to a reporter.
Imagine being able to
Advertisements.
build just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Number 19. This is where things get much more complicated. Donald Trump has long maintained that he split away from Jeffrey Epstein entirely in the early 2000s. There's been multiple contradicting reasons directly cited for that breakup, let's call it, but all of them occur between 2004 and 2007. At least, that's what we've been told. In an email thread from an unknown redacted sender as of 2017, a visitor was on their way to Epstein's house, notably the second floor of Epstein's house, which is where prominent victim Virginia Giuffre specifically indicated the massage tables were, and the bedrooms with cameras were documented in evidence photographs, aka the place where abuse occurred. This unknown person went to meet him as part of an exchange where they ask for a door code, while Epstein says that the house is more private for a meeting. And then suddenly, quote, "I'm at the door, but I will wait for my time. I don't want to come early to find Trump in your house," end quote. And keep in mind, this is 2017, nearly a decade after the two had supposedly parted ways.
And he was president
Number
during this
18.
time.
This is an exchange allegedly between Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein, reading, quote, from Epstein. Prince Andrew and Trump today. Too funny, Bannon. Recall Prince Andrew's accuser came from Mar-a-Lago. Further down, can't believe no one is making you the connective tissue, referring to Epstein. To which Epstein then replies, F and B only, end quote. Seemingly speaking in code, I guess. I'm not entirely sure what to make of that one, but I certainly thought it was interesting. Number 17. This is an exchange between Kathy Rumler, former White House counsel to Barack Obama, and Jeffrey Epstein in 2014. Quote from Epstein, "You need to talk to boss," Rumler responds. "Agreed, but I need to be prepared to say yes before I talk to him." Epstein again, "Understood. It comes down to high risk/reward, low risk/reward, professional, emotional, and financial." After which Rumler responds, "Most girls do not have to worry about this crap." And Epstein says, "Girls? Careful, I will renew an old habit." After which he lists off some of the world's most powerful businessmen and politicians, saying,
what?
"You are a welcome guest at any. Also, if you think there are interesting people in town, everyone here for Climate Summit, Clinton Security Council, holy shit, I'm on or next 30 minutes, end quote. One thing I should mention right now before going further, these emails are absolutely full of typos. Epstein and multiple of the people that he regularly corresponded with had precisely zero regard for proper grammar. So if it sounds like near Jim, if you think
I mean, they could have been typing on their phone or something, but what was... Hold on. Rewind. Okay, so most of them do not have to worry about this. And then he said, "Careful, I will renew an old habit this week." Thiel? I'm just not saying the names out loud, but I was trying to... I didn't know if he was saying these names in an attempt to say, like, these are guys I have info on and I can add you to the list, or what was the point of him? Let's see. This week, okay. And then he names on this, "You are a welcome guest at any." That's interesting. Thiel, we just watched an interview on him, Peter Thiel.
Interesting people in town.
Okay.
It sounds like near gibberish at times. That's just what the emails look like. Anyway, "Careful, I might renew an old habit," in reference to girls, is certainly a little bit suspect when it comes to the most prolific abuser in human history.
Right.
Number 16. This is another exchange between Rumler and Epstein on a thread titled "Donald Trump's High Crimes and Misdemeanors." Rumler says, quote, "It makes no difference whether it was his money. Issue is failure to disclose. Plus, fact that he has lied his ass off about it makes clear that he knew it was illegal." To which Epstein responds, "You see, I know how dirty Donald is. My guess is that non-lawyers, New York biz people have no idea what it means to have your fixer flip," end quote. That particular thread is probably about the criminal cases that Trump faced in New York, presumably. But the idea of Jeffrey Epstein saying, "I know how dirty Donald is," should make even the most devout supporters raise an eyebrow. Just to hammer that point home, number 15 is an exchange between Larry Summers and Jeffrey Epstein, in which Epstein says, quote, "Recall I've told you I have met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump. Not one decent cell in his body. So yes, dangerous," end quote. Ideally, at this point, the gravity of the situation is beginning to present.
This could mean two things, okay? And I'm just playing both sides here. This could, I mean, because look at if Satan, for example, says you're a bad person, what does that usually mean? And I'm saying this metaphorically here. It means that, like, you're not going to bow down and do dirty things for him, so he considers you a bad person. He considers God a bad person, right? Like, we're just looking at this in metaphorical context. Satan thinks God is a bad person because he's Satan. So if Jeffrey Epstein says you're a bad person, does that mean that you, like, it's just, wait, okay. So for example, I met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump. But I met some very bad people. Brother, you're one of them. Like, you were probably one of the worst next to some other people in history. But you're saying none as bad. Like, you got a lot of nerve to call people bad. You know what I'm saying? So he could be either A, disregarding himself and just saying, besides himself, Trump is a pretty bad person and he's met bad people. Or he could be saying that he's not as influenceable and will act according to himself and his own manners and not so much be so willing to lean into what Epstein has for him to do or say or, be blackmailed by. So either way, that is a very interesting sentence considering how evil this man is to begin with. So for him to have the audacity to even say that is crazy. It's crazy.
Itself, but we are truly, genuinely only just beginning to scratch the surface of how bad this is getting. Number 14. This is another chain between Epstein and a redacted correspondent, which says, quote, "It will all blow over. They're really just trying to take down Trump and doing whatever they can to do that." To which Epstein replies, "It's wild because I am the one able to take him down." End quote. Let me pose a question here. Why is it that Epstein, at the end of 2018, shortly before he was arrested the second time and then died under suspect circumstances, why is it that he's explicitly saying, "I'm the one able to take him down," about the sitting president of the goddamn country? Just food for thought. Now for an even crazier one.
Well, because
Number
he's got
13.
info on him that could get him
How
out of
many people
office.
remember this right here? The weird Bill Clinton painting that Epstein
Oh,
had
yeah.
with blue dress
I've seen
and red
that.
high heels. Anyone? Okay, well, keeping in mind that this painting was owned by Epstein and hanging in his Manhattan home, let's take a look at this particular email thread between Jeffrey Epstein and Mark Epstein, his brother, in 2018, which says, quote, "How are you doing? All good. Bannon with me. Ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. And I thought I had Cirrus. You and your boy Donnie can make a remake of the movie Get Hard. You mean Donnie T." End quote. For the sake of clarity right now, just in case anybody didn't pick up on this, he doesn't say if Putin has photos. He says if Putin has the photos, implying their definitive existence. And Bubba, by the way, is one of Bill Clinton's nicknames. I have absolutely no idea what these emails actually mean, but I can certainly see why the Trump administration is so very desperate to stop the release of the Epstein files.
Yeah, facts.
This is a nightmare for them. Number 12, a simple email from Michael Wolff.
I feel like what time are we at? Timestamp 11:39. I feel like this alone. Oh no, not that one. Where did he say? Rewind just a little bit. This one right here. I feel like this one's damning enough. It's wild because I'm the one to take him down, and this was sent when? 18. So he was already 2 years into his presidency. And obviously, I mean, if you think about it, it's wild because I'm the one to take him down. That's what Epstein said. That means that there's, there's implication that he is heavily involved with him and has been heavily involved with him. And then we saw in the other video that he had dinner with Epstein, allegedly, around 2016, was it? Like, we saw that was confirmed in the emails for sure. They're really just trying to take down Trump and doing whatever. And that's kind of been the mantra since he's been in office. I don't know what, because the media paints him out to be however he is for their own political gain, whether they paint him in a good light, on the Republican side or a bad light on the Democratic side. They clearly have been trying to get him out of office forever. Like, they have not wanted this dude in office since he took it in 2016. Mind you, I was 16 at the time. I was a kid. I barely knew about politics in the same regard that I know him now. And I still don't know everything. I mean, I still, just like you, I have to look up stuff and make my own opinions. But Congress has really been trying to take him out of office for the longest time, using really anything they can to throw at him to try and get him out of office. And you see it all over the media. And whether you believe it, whether you don't believe it, like, I think we all can admit that all you've heard, even really during Biden's term, for the past 10 years, all we've really heard about is Trump, right? And it makes me wonder what is so important about him in particular. You heard me talk about the stage and how it's all a play, and what we see isn't even the tip of the iceberg of what goes actually on within these elite groups of rich and famous people, you know. So my question is, you know, what is it really that makes people, like, everybody behind the stage afraid of him? What is it really? You know, because I don't think that Congress, and this is just my personal belief, I don't think Congress gives the first flying F about the stuff that they put out on media. You know, all these rich and famous people, they don't care about what they're trying to make you hate him for. You know, because these same people literally protect PDF files. You know what I'm saying? Like these same people behind the stage protect those kind of people for a living. You know what I'm saying? So it's like all the moral stuff that you hate him for or don't hate him for, they don't even regard that. They don't care. You know, that's just stuff that they put out to make you personally as a consumer hate him. You know, so it just really makes me wonder what it is behind the scenes that Trump does that really shivers everybody's timbers, bro. Gets them shaking in their boots. That's what I really want to know. Why are they afraid of him being in office? That's my main question. What are they really afraid of if he were to get into the Oval Office? You know, for example, are they concerned that he would burn the ship with everybody in it? Like if he, like, for example, let's just say, for example, he said, sure, release all the, this isn't happening, but in a hypothetical situation, sure, release all the Epstein files, every single one of them. You know, I may be in it too, but everybody else is also in it too. You know, so if I'm burning the ship, you're all coming down with me. You know, maybe they were afraid he's going to do that, and which that would be a legitimate reason for behind the stage, because then so many people would be arrested. So many people would be in jail or fleeing the country or implicated. The possible civil war that might happen, or, well, yeah, civil war, like not between left and right, but more, you know, the people versus the government, because we'd find out that the government kind of supports this kind of behavior. That could be a legitimate reason. I could see that. People's funds being, and then possibly other implications like foreign interests supporting these same people. That could be a legitimate reason why they wouldn't want Trump in office. Because if you were to say, screw it, I'm burning down this whole house with me in it, he wouldn't be held to the same kind of blackmail standard that everybody else has. So that's just a theory, though. That's like something I'm just bouncing off the top. Like, it could be any reason, but like that's what I'm really wondering. What is it about Trump that these people just hate? That these people who support Epstein, who support these child rings, who support PDF files, like these are the same people worried about Trump. Just put that into perspective. Literally, Epstein just said he said a second ago, I met some bad people, but Trump is the worst one. But brother, you what? The evil villain saying he's met an evil villain. That doesn't make sense. I don't know, man. Maybe all that'll be revealed later, and like if they drop more files.
There's an opportunity to come forward this week and talk about Trump in such a way that could garner you great sympathy and help finish him. Interested? End quote. Number 11. This one is with Linda Stone in September of 2015 and says, quote, wondering if the fact that so many people are on antidepressant, ADHD, and other drugs is what makes Trump appealing and his flaws invisible. Will you have a cabinet position? She's asking Jeffrey Epstein if he'll have a fucking cabinet position with Trump in 2015. After which,
rewind. What? Pause. What?
Have a fucking cabinet and other drugs is what makes Trump appealing and his flaws invisible. Will you have a cabinet position?
So first of all, they're acknowledging the problem with antidepressants. By the way, shout out, what do I take? Lexapro, shout out Lexapro gang. But like, they're acknowledging antidepressants and being on these drugs is a problem. That's interesting. Because, she's saying that by saying, I wonder if she's implying that people being on all these, brain chemical altering suppressants and what have you, is what's making them view him as a savior. So, and this is back in 2015 that they're acknowledged. I mean, what am I talking about? They've always known this. They just don't care, bro. Reading this stuff is kind of, we really are just sheep, bro. Like in the grand scheme of the pyramid. But anyway, will you have a cabinet position for who?
He's asking Jeffrey Epstein if he'll have a fucking cabinet position with Trump in 2015. After which she also says, "Do you think he can win? Speak, please. What do you?"
As in, would Epstein have a cabinet position next to Trump? Wouldn't that implicate that they've been in communication for more than 20 years past when Trump said he cut him off?
You think?
That's interesting.
To which he replies, "Too far to tell. We will know much more come October 15th. But then, after she asks, "You still in Paris?" Epstein says, "Trump Tower." Keep in mind, we have been repeatedly told to believe that the two separated completely sometime in the early 2000s. But if that's true, why would Epstein's close friend be asking him whether or not he'll have a cabinet position while he stays at Trump Tower? Number 10. This exchange is between a Qatari businessman, I believe, named Jabor Y, and Epstein, where he says, quote, "In Paris today, headed for New York. Trump gives many new things to do," end quote. Once again, casting a very long, very deep shadow over the idea that these two men parted ways a decade earlier and never spoke again. There's a lot of corroboration that that tale, that story, that talking point that they've been giving for like 20 years is not true.
Albion Online is a sandbox
An advertisement
in which you write your roles.
Number 9. Once again, Epstein and this Jabor Y person, quote, "Sorry, I just checked your email. What time you will leave to the airport? I hope you are in a better place now than New York. Sorry, yes, Palm Beach, all Trump people here," end quote. Again, 2016, all Trump people in Palm Beach, but somehow the president knows nothing about him and never spoke to him since 2004. None of it adds up. Number 8. This is between Epstein and Tom Barrack or Tom Barack, however you say that. Closely connected fundraiser and senior advisor to Trump's campaign. Just keep that in mind. This thread is from 2016. Quote, "Hope you are well. Photos look good. FYI, I receive many calls a week about both Donald, beauty contest, Mar-a-Lago, etc., and Clinton from reporters. Less so recently with Clinton, but my answers are always, I have nothing to say, or I try to ignore altogether. A few times I've been ambushed on the street with questions, but I am more careful now." Followed by, "Send photos of you and child. Make me smile." Sure, that could be innocent. Send a few wholesome family photographs, but A,
yeah, let's
this
be
is
honest.
Jeffrey Epstein that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And B, this is communication about Epstein refusing to answer incriminating questions between him and Trump's own senior advisor in 2016. 7. Good old Landon Thomas comes back around here with an email exchange that appears to be warning Epstein, reading, quote, "He is digging around again. Not clear if it's another book or expanded paperback version. Was asking me all sorts of questions about why you hired Ken Starr. I told him I had no idea. I think he is doing some Trump-related digging too. Anyway, for what it's worth," end quote. Why on earth is a New York Times journalist warning Jeffrey Epstein and giving him a heads up that someone is looking into him and Trump? Why is that happening? And why is that happening at that time during that year? Number 6, Landon Thomas to Jeffrey Epstein, quote, "He is scaring the shit out of me now. He could well tank the global economy. Can Barack talk sense to him anymore? Maybe it's time for you to jump in now. Given how he is throwing caution to the wind in such epic fashion, why wouldn't he take your call? Give it a shot." To which Epstein replies, "He feels alone and is nuts. I told everyone from day one, evil beyond belief mad, and most thought I was speaking metaphorically. It's obvious he could crack. Stormy Daniels, lies after lies after lies," end quote. The world.
Evil beyond belief, mad? An evil villain saying an evil villain? Okay.
Most notorious sex trafficker, okay, directly referring to the sitting president as evil
Right.
beyond belief.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5,
nuts.
inexplicably, apparently emailed to himself from another account he controlled, Epstein sends a very long list of names. Rothschild, Rumler, Churkin, Schumer, Rockefeller, some names we know, some names we don't, across a wide range of political affiliations and business sectors. But that email is titled List for Bannon Steve, and it was sent in June of 2019. 1 month later, Epstein faced his second arrest. I don't know what that list is for. I don't know all the people that are on it, right? I don't recognize all of these names, but I can tell you that this is a tiny little fraction of the files that are being withheld from the public, and that the level of discrepancy between what we now see in black and white correspondence versus what the current administration has been incessantly claiming is unignorable. They are not telling the truth. Number 4, now for some of the most damning things, okay? In a 2018...
But what it sounds like to me is, it really sounds this way. The list has been more of a bigger deal than most people thought, than the public eye thought, since his elected presidency, the first run. This has really been a bigger deal. Like, it's been all about this, even in his first term. And then this is all. This is what I'm about to say is literally just conspiracy. Not saying it's real, but this is what the timeline sounds like. So the files were a problem because they were scared of Trump because he could possibly crash the global economy somehow, some way. I'm not sure. So they conspire, and Epstein's like, yo, out of all people to take him out of office, I could do it because he has the most implication with me. And then at some point, I can only assume that Trump, got word of that, imprisoned Epstein at one of his jails. Not like one that like Trump owned, like not like Trump Tower, Trump jail, but like a jail that's watched over by the Trump administration. And then the government did what the government does best. That's my thoughts. I don't know if that's true. That's my thoughts.
Email thread between Epstein and Thorbjorn Jagland. We can see, quote, I think you might suggest to Putin that Lavrov can get insight on talking to me. Vitaly Churkin used to, but he died. After which Epstein continues later, Churkin was great. He understood Trump after our conversations. It's not complex. He must be seen to get something. It's that simple, end quote. Let's get something straight right now, okay? This is email evidence in 2018 of Jeffrey Epstein, who has repeatedly claimed explicitly to hold compromising information about sitting President Donald Trump, talking to the former Norwegian Prime Minister and saying that he coached Russia on how to handle Donald Trump. I don't care who you are or what politics or loyalty or affiliations you have. That's a fucking problem. Number 3.
Yeah, no joke.
These last 3 are some of the most common. They're the ones that mainstream media have been fixating on, I guess, the most. But there's a very good reason for that. From Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell, quote, I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Virginia spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. To which Maxwell replies, I've been thinking about that, end quote. Number 2, email to Michael Wolff, quote, blank, Virginia Giuffre, we know that because of context now, blank worked at Mar-a-Lago. She was the one that accused Prince Andrew. Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop, end quote. And then lastly, number 1, the big cheese, from Michael Wolff to Jeffrey Epstein at the end of 2015, quote, I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in scrum afterwards. Epstein replies, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Why the fuck would they be able to craft an answer for him is the real question.
Right.
And then finally, quote, I think you should let him hang himself if he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, He'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and he's gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime, end quote. Those 21 emails, okay, I'll just let people kind of mull over and unpack those for themselves.
Yeah,
Those 21 emails.
I kind of want to go over this last one real quick because I'm curious. Because Voidzilla kind of went over them, but I want to keep reading. So let me see. I'm gonna try to get my thoughts out here on this last one, and I wanted to go back to one more, but I hear CNN planning to ask Trump about his relationship with you, either on air or afterwards, and then he says, I think you should let him hang himself. Play into the House. That gives you a valuable PR and political currency. So really, let me hear this back. I want to hear his thoughts again.
Answer for him. What do you think it should be? Why the fuck would they be able to craft an answer for him is the real question. And then finally, quote, I think you should let him hang himself if he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House. Then that gives you a valuable PR and political.
Okay, that's where my thoughts is. So they would literally give him, like, they would literally trap him. It's like they're playing a chess game here, because like if he were to say something along the lines of he hasn't done anything with Jeffrey Epstein or with Michael Wolff or anything like that, then that's like a checkmate, because they could literally come out and say like, yeah, yes, he's had a lot of implications with us, you know. So they're literally deciding here whether they should use this in a good light or if they should use it as blackmail. And I think this is a very, not a pinpoint or like a A-B replica, but this is kind of how they trap people, I think. You know, obviously in worse and more extreme ways, but I think this is really, you know, this is kind of the model or the structure of how they scheme to curate blackmail for these people. Is, you know, they let them say things and then they pull the rug from under them if they need be, you know. So, and it's just you can see the just, this is normal conversation between them. Like, that's the craziest part. This is normal conversation of them scheming of a way to essentially blackmail Trump. The cabinet position was crazy, though. The cabinet question position was crazy.
And never spoke to him since 2004. A week about both Donald beauty contest and Mara.
Let's see. I want to go back to the Russia one. That one was crazy.
Not clear if it's another book or expanded paperback version. Was asking me all sorts of questions about why that someone is time for you to jump in now. Given how he is throwing caution to the wind in such epic fashion, why wouldn't he take your call? Give it a shot. To the sitting president as evil beyond belief. Number 5, Schumer Rock. In June, creation has been an email thread between Epstein and
here we go.
Bjorn Jagland. We can see, quote, I think you might suggest to Putin that Lavrov can get insight on talking to me. Vitaly Churkin used to, but he died. After which Epstein continues later, Churkin was great. He understood Trump after our conversations. It's not complex. He must be seen to get something. It's that simple, end quote. Let's get something straight right now, okay? This is email evidence in 2018 of Jeffrey Epstein, who has repeatedly claimed explicitly to hold compromising information about sitting President Donald Trump, talking to the former Norwegian Prime Minister and saying that he coached Russia on how to handle Donald Trump. I don't care who you are or what politics or loyalty or affiliation.
Dude, that's, oh my gosh, that's nuts. That is actually nuts. All right, that's a long recording, so we're going to go ahead and chop that.